Opening. Sunday dinner lectures. Sunday dinners at my parents' house had become monthly rituals of humiliation disguised as family bonding. Every first Sunday, I'd drive my modest Honda to their suburban home, bracing for lectures about financial responsibility and life choices. This November evening was no different. Mom's pot roast filled the dining room as we gathered around Dad's mahogany table. My brother Kevin sat with his wife Jessica and 8-year-old son Tyler, while sister Amanda occupied her spot with husband Mark and their twin daughters. The conversation inevitably turned to real estate, Dad's favorite topic and their preferred method of reminding me where I stood in their success hierarchy. "Kevin's making another smart investment," Dad announced, cutting his roast proudly. "Tell Emma about the duplex you're buying, son." Kevin straightened, relishing his spotlight moment. "Great property in Riverside. We'll live in one unit and rent the other. Building equity while someone else pays the mortgage. That's getting ahead in life. Unlike some people who throw money away on rent monthly," Jessica added with a pointed look my direction. I focused on my mashed potatoes, having learned that defending myself only prolonged these sessions. At 31, I was the family disappointment, the software developer living downtown while siblings built suburban real estate empires. What they didn't know was my downtown apartment was temporary corporate housing while my newly purchased penthouse underwent renovations. What they really didn't know was the penthouse cost $15.2 million atop the city's most exclusive residential tower. "Emma still thinks renting is smart," Amanda chimed in condescendingly. "Remember when she explained flexibility and not being tied down? As if stability is bad." Mark nodded knowingly. "The rent versus buy calculator doesn't lie. Every rental month is money you'll never see again. We've told her this for years." "Some people aren't cut out for homeownership responsibility," Mom said with disappointed resignation. "Emma's always been more artistic. Practical financial planning isn't for everyone." I'd been running my software consulting firm for 5 years, but they'd convinced themselves I barely scraped by freelancing. Truth was, my cybersecurity software had been acquired by 3 major corporations, and my consulting rates made their mortgage payments look like pocket change. But I'd learned to keep quiet about successes. Every achievement I'd tried sharing was dismissed as temporary luck or overshadowed by siblings' conventional victories. "The market keeps rising," Dad continued, warming to his favorite subject. "Kevin and Amanda understand that. They're building generational wealth. Emma." He paused, shaking his head sadly. "Renters forever." He chuckled at his wit. The phrase stung, but I maintained composure. I'd heard this lecture countless times, always delivered with pity and superiority. "Property ownership is American prosperity's foundation," Kevin added, enjoying his successful son role. "Dad taught us that. Some people never learn." Tyler had been quietly working homework at the table's corner throughout dinner. He was bright, always asking questions and genuinely curious. Unlike his family's adults, he'd never judged my living situation. "Build up. Innocent discovery." "Aunt Emma," Tyler said suddenly, looking up from his worksheet, "can you help with this geography project? I need the city's tallest buildings." "Of course, sweetheart," I said, grateful for distraction from real estate sermons. Tyler slid his tablet over, showing Architectural Landmarks website. "I'm supposed to pick one building and write what makes it special. Know any cool downtown buildings?" I glanced at his assignment requirements. He needed building height, architectural features, and residential or commercial use. My finger hesitated as I scrolled through options. "How about Meridian Tower?" I suggested, pointing to a sleek glass structure. "One of the newest luxury residential buildings. 72 floors, amazing harbor views." "Perfect," Tyler exclaimed, clicking the building's information. "Says here penthouse units cost." His eyes widened, reading numbers. $15 million. Who has that much money? The dinner table conversation had shifted to Amanda's home improvements, but Tyler's exclamation cut through chatter like a knife. "What did you say, honey?" Jessica asked, leaning to look at Tyler's tablet. "This building Aunt Emma picked has apartments costing $15 million, Tyler said with childhood wonder at incomprehensible sums. "Look at this penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows and private elevator." Kevin laughed dismissively. "That's not for people like us, buddy. That's billionaires and movie stars." "Actually," Tyler said, reading carefully. Says here one penthouse was purchased by. He paused, sounding out words slowly. Richardson Software Solutions LLC. Blood drained from my face. Richardson was my middle name, used for my business entity maintaining privacy. But Tyler wouldn't make that connection. Just reading news about luxury real estate purchases. Richardson Software Solutions, Dad repeated thoughtfully. Never heard of them. Probably some tech company with more money than sense. Article says the buyer wanted privacy, so no individual name released. Tyler continued, absorbed in research. But gives full address. 425 Harborview Drive, Penthouse B. My heart stopped. That was my address. My secret address until renovations completed and I figured out breaking this news to family. 425 Harborview Drive, Mom repeated slowly. Isn't that near Emma's area? Yeah, I managed, voice strangely tight. Same neighborhood. Small world, Amanda said absently, returning to kitchen backsplash discussion. But Tyler wasn't finished researching. Look, even has penthouse photos, he said excitedly, turning his tablet toward the table. Master bedroom has private harbor balcony, wine cellar, whole entertaining floor. Images on Tyler's screen showed my penthouse in pre-renovation glory. Realtor photos captured soaring ceilings, wraparound terrace, custom kitchen soon updated to my specifications. Wow, Jessica said, leaning for better looks. Imagine living like that. What was that address again? 425 Harborview Drive, Penthouse B, Tyler read again. I watched in horror as Mom pulled out her phone. Let me Google this building, she said. Curious what 15 million actually gets you nowadays. My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe Tyler's article was outdated. Maybe multiple Richardson software entities existed. Maybe I could deflect this disaster before explosion. But as Mom's search results loaded, I saw her expression changing from casual curiosity to confusion to approaching shock. That's impossible, she whispered, staring at her screen. What's impossible? Dad asked, sipping wine. Mom's fork clattered against her plate as she set it down with trembling hands. According to property records, 425 Harborview Drive Penthouse B owner is listed American Samoa. She paused, voice barely audible. Emma Richardson. Revelation. Truth exposed. Deafening silence followed. Every conversation stopped. Every fork paused midair. Every family member turned, staring at me with expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. That can't be right, Kevin said, first breaking stunned quiet. Emma doesn't own property. She's rented that tiny downtown apartment for years. Must be another Emma Richardson, Jessica added quickly. Common enough name. But Mom was still scrolling, face growing paler with each result. Property records show purchase 3 months ago, she said slowly. Buyer listed as Emma Marie Richardson, age 31. My middle name. My exact age. No hiding anymore. Emma, Dad said, voice taking stern tone he'd used catching childhood lies. What is your current address? I felt like standing at cliff's edge, about to jump into abyss forever changing family relationships. It's complicated, I said weakly. What's complicated about an address? Amanda demanded. You either live somewhere or don't. Tyler, oblivious to tension he'd created, continued exploring his tablet. Look, more articles about this building, he said excitedly. This says the penthouse has smart home technology designed by local software company. Owner wanted everything custom programmed for security and convenience. Smart home technology. Custom programming. Security features. All things I'd specifically requested during purchase. Details supposed to remain private. Emma, Mom said, voice shaking, please tell me you haven't done something foolish with money. Haven't gotten into financial trouble trying to keep up appearances. The assumption I must be in trouble, couldn't possibly afford such purchase legitimately, stung more than previous dismissals. I'm not in financial trouble, I said quietly. Then explain this, Dad demanded, gesturing toward Tyler's tablet. Explain how your name appears on $15 million property when you've been telling us you can barely afford 1-bedroom apartment rent. I never said I could barely afford rent, I protested. You all just assumed. We assumed because you live like someone barely getting by, Kevin interrupted. 10-year-old Honda, discount store shopping, no expensive vacations. If you had this money, why live like that? Because I learned from you, I shot back, patience finally snapping. You taught me flashy spending was irresponsible. You taught me true wealth was built quietly and carefully. You taught me not to show off. But $15 million? Amanda said, voice rising. Where did you get 15 million? Your little software consulting can't possibly generate that money. Tyler looked up again, sensing tension but not understanding its source. Aunt Emma, the article mentions the buyer's company creates cybersecurity software for big corporations. Is that what you do? All eyes turned to me again. This was it. The moment when years of careful privacy and deliberate understatement would finally crash down. Yes, I said simply. That's what I do. Mom was frantically searching her phone. Emma Richardson Cybersecurity, she muttered, typing into Google. Richardson Software Solutions. Oh my God. Her face went completely white. What? Amanda demanded. What did you find? Forbes, Mom whispered. Emma's on the Forbes list of top cybersecurity entrepreneurs. It says Richardson Software Solutions was bought by Microsoft for. Her voice faltered. $250 million. The room went silent. Even the ticking clock sounded loud. 250 million? Kevin repeated in shock. Mom kept reading, her hands trembling. The article says the acquisition happened 8 months ago. Emma Richardson, founder and CEO, kept part of the company. And still leads cybersecurity projects for Fortune 500 clients. Tyler looked up from his homework, excited. Hey. It says someone in your building designed the whole digital security system. Emma Richardson from Richardson Software Solutions. Aunt Emma, is that you? I took a breath. Yes, Tyler, I said calmly. That's me. Dad stared at me stunned. So, while we worried about your money problems, you were sitting on a $250 million fortune. I'm saying that while you lectured me about finances, I replied, I was building one of the top cybersecurity companies in the country. Amanda grabbed her phone. There are dozens of articles about you, Forbes, TechCrunch, Wall Street Journal. Emma, how did we not know? I tried to tell you, I said quietly. 3 years ago when I mentioned landing a big client, Dad changed the subject to Kevin's promotion. When I said I was expanding my business, Mom talked about Amanda's new house. Every time I tried to share, you brushed it off. Kevin frowned at his phone. This says you testified before Congress. You never mentioned that. I did, I said. I told you I had to travel to Washington for work. You asked if I was finally getting a real job, with benefits. The truth hit them like a wave. Years of judgment and dismissal suddenly collapsed. Mom stared again at Tyler's tablet. The penthouse, she murmured. You really bought a $15 million penthouse? I did, I said simply. My company has contracts worth hundreds of millions. I employ 47 people. We protect banks, hospitals, and major companies every day. Tyler grinned. Aunt Emma, it says you make security systems for hospitals and governments. That's awesome, you're like a superhero. His excitement filled the heavy silence. Dad's voice was small. If you had this success, why didn't you tell us? Because whenever I tried, I said, you minimized it or ignored it. You were so sure I was a failure. That it was easier to stay quiet. Amanda read from her phone. This tech leader's interview says, your family didn't understand your career, and that their lack of support pushed you to succeed. Mom looked hurt. We weren't unsupportive. We just wanted you to have security. You wanted me to live your version of security, I said. A steady job, a mortgage, a suburban life. But that wasn't my path. Kevin's voice softened. My duplex cost $300,000. Jessica whispered. Her penthouse cost 50 times that. Tyler smiled. Aunt Emma, can I visit your place someday? It says the view is amazing. Of course, Tyler, I said warmly. When renovations are done, you can come see it. Renovations? Mom asked faintly. Smart home systems, kitchen upgrades, new floors. I'm making it my long-term home. The irony hung in the air. They'd lectured me about buying property, while I'd already done it on a much bigger scale. Dinner ended awkwardly. There were hesitant questions, soft apologies, but they still didn't grasp the full picture. I should head home, I said. I have a call with clients in Tokyo tonight. Tokyo? Dad repeated. Yes. A $70 million contract if we close the deal. Tyler hugged me goodbye, still proud and excited. The adults said they wanted to start fresh. Driving home in my old Honda, I wondered if anything had truly changed. They knew my success now. But did they understand why I'd hidden it? 3 weeks later, I hosted dinner in my finished penthouse. Tyler loved the smart lighting system. Kevin and Amanda were quiet, still processing. The talk was polite, careful, distant. Funny, I said, watching the city lights. If Tyler hadn't picked Meridian Tower for homework, you might never have known. Dad asked softly, would you have told us someday? I'm not sure, I admitted. I got used to keeping things private. It felt safer that way. Tyler came over with his tablet. Aunt Emma, this says your company's making software for hospitals. Will it keep patient info safe? Yes, Tyler, I said, smiling. That's exactly what it does. He nodded seriously. That's really important work. As the night ended, I realized his homework project had finally made my family see me clearly. Maybe it would bring us closer. Maybe not. But for the first time, they truly knew who I was. Sometimes the truth, even when it comes from a child's school project, is exactly what everyone needs to hear.